What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Tesla Geeks Show. I am Anwar Beck.
And I'm Eli, and on this week's episode of the Tesla Geeks Show, we have very good friends of the podcast, Wes and Kristy, also known as the Power Couple. And this week's episode of the Tesla Geeks Show is brought to you by Evanex. Evanex is the Tesla community's accessory store. You can get 10% off on an order of $100 or more using our discount code TeslaGeeks. All right. It's time to welcome our guests, Wes and Kristy Morgan. Kristy, I can't see that. Sorry, Kristy. Welcome to the Tesla Geek Show.
Thanks, Eli. Happy to be here. And it's really good to see your face again. Gosh, it's been months since we've gotten to actually hang out. I guess that's normal in the COVID world, but it's...
That was a fully charged, right?
It was a fully charged. Yeah, I think that was actually the last... That was the last big event, I think, before everything went sideways.
Exactly.
By the way, in Austin, Texas. By the way, guys, I was supposed to meet you guys then. Eli, give the background story.
So this is crazy.
Yeah.
So when you got...
What happened? You bailed on us?
So we were a few weeks back, on the Tesla Geek Show, we had Vivas Kumar. He was a former battery supply chain manager from Tesla.
Smart dude.
We were in a room with him, and he was giving us the kind of rundown on batteries. So when I came out to meet you guys, I walked away from that conversation with Anwar Beck. And who else was there with us? It was Hyperchain.
Gally from Hyperchain. Yeah.
So he had I couldn't pull him away because this was this guy he was talking to. So yeah, we were in there hanging out with Vivas when I came out to see you guys.
So I was getting a brain dump from Vivas. Vivas has been trying to help me with all this Kazakhstan mining and all this. So we're in the middle of this presentation, and Eli's like, I got to go. I'm like, what do you mean you have to go, dude? So he was actually meeting you guys. So I was supposed to be there, but this meeting took a little bit longer than we expected. Sean Mitchell was supposed to be there. And then Sean started margarita time a bit too early. I called him. He's like, dude, I'm not fully charged anymore. So our paths crossed, but we didn't meet. I actually got to meet Wes and Kristy just recently in Austin, Texas. They're part of our Tesla Owners Club here. So we just kind of on accident met at a socially distant Cars and Coffee. And I had no idea that they were the people that Eli met. And I just clicked with them. I was like, oh my God, you guys are amazing. You know how I joke on this podcast that Eli and I are 11 out of 10s. So I love meeting other 11s. And this is the power couple, 11 out of 11 or 11 out of 10s. And I was like, dude, we have to have you guys on the podcast. We want to hear your story and what you guys are doing. So that's why we're here today.
Happy to be here. Looking forward to the chat.
All right. So where do we even start this from? So I know you and Anwar Beck just met, but let's go all the way back to the beginning, right? So how did you guys fall into this Tesla thing?
So I'll take responsibility for that. So I had gone back to school to do a master's in environmental engineering and kind of wanted to take my career direction a little bit more technical on the environmental side. And there was a professor at Stanford his name is Mark Jacobson, and he teaches in the atmosphere and energy programs. Pretty amazing guy. He has the entire Tesla ecosystem, the perfect world. He had a Roadster at the time, so this was 2010. He had a Roadster, and his license plate said GHG free on the back. And I would see that car parked at the Y2E2 parking garage every day when I was going to class. And I always just thought, oh, that's such an amazing car. But, it's not practical. You can't charge everywhere. It's way too expensive. It was kind of one of those it's gorgeous, but it's not something that's a reality for me. And then fast forward 6 years later, I had been consulting for power and utility companies and gotten a little bit more comfortable with the idea of EVs. And Wes and I had met by this time and gotten together. And when we heard about the Model 3, I started working on Wes early on of okay, there's this car that's coming out. We're not going to know what it looks like. We're not going to know the specs about it, but we're going to go and be those crazy people like those Apple geeks who stand in line for a product for hours and hours and hours before it even comes out. So we go and we're at the Burlingame store, and we show up at like 7 o'clock or so in the morning, and we're already like the 210th person in line. So we all just busted out our little REI camp chairs and our laptops, and we're working and we're talking with all the people around. And I had been consulting for 6 years, and it was great experience, but I also felt like I wasn't really doing the right thing for the environment by being on the road. I was spending 200 nights a year in hotels and traveling all over, and basically living a road warrior life that was not sustainable long term.
A year. Now that
Yeah.
I didn't know. And this is not like without autopilot. This is dry. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is in rental cars to make it worse. So I'm basically at a point where I'm like, okay, I'm bored with what I'm doing. We're standing there in line with all these other Tesla like ultimate fans, probably a lot more 11s there, you know? And we're talking, and people are like, whoa, you really are into this company. You've got a great background. You should apply there. I'm like, oh, yeah, I should. So I had my resume ready. I was already kind of looking for jobs. And so I sent in my resume like that day while we were waiting in line. And I thought if nothing else, it would be a great way to get my car earlier because
you applied to work at Tesla while waiting in line to place your deposit on the Model 3.
yes.
That's a first that I've ever heard. That's amazing. That talk
Yeah,
about commitment. You're like, I'm putting down money for the car.
Sight unseen as well.
Sight unseen.
It was very Bay Area tech, right? It was a very diverse crowd in any dimension you can imagine. But it was very clear everyone shopped at REI. Everyone had their Pete's coffee. Like, it was very Bay Area tech. It was just Patagonia vests all over the place. It was complete nerddom.
Patagonia vest and North Face jackets.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But we met people who were like starting up their own tutor app, like like online tutoring business. Another person who was a CIO of a small startup. People that work for there were high school teachers. It's such an egalitarian mindset of the Model 3, the mass market car. It was super exciting.
So once I convinced him that like, okay, we're going to get this car. And then I got in the door, and then I realized like the rest of Tesla that was out there was actually way more attainable than I had ever thought before that. We decided we couldn't wait for our Model 3. Like, I decided we couldn't wait for our Model 3. There was no way that I was going to be able to live in that world. Like, I needed to be a beta tester. I needed to be driving that car every day, especially since we were in the Bay Area and I was dealing with a 30-mile each way commute, which, that's not fun in the Bay. So I convinced Wes 3 months in to working there that we had to get an S. But
how did you convince me, though, is a good question.
We ran the numbers. We looked at the total cost of ownership. We compared it to a Corolla. We said, okay, I'm spending $550 a month in gas. Between our Volkswagen and our old Lexus, we were spending $550 a month in gas. I was spending at least an hour and a half a day in traffic, if not more, which was just like stress on me. So you look at the cost, you look at the time, you looked at all those factors. And I was able to justify us like just getting in with a S75, no D, nothing, like base, everything. And it was—
Let's be honest, the baseline of Tesla is still far and above pretty much anything else I had ever driven in my entire life.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But from where we've gone now, that just seems so like entry, it was our taste. It got us in the door. And then
you've been working at Tesla for like 2-3 months by this time.
Yeah.
When you became a Tesla owner. Okay.
You had to be an employee for 3 months to get into the employee leasing program.
Oh,
So-
okay. Got it.
No discounts on cars, but they can get you in the door a little easier.
Let's talk about the financials, because you said you were previously spending $550 a month on gas.
Yep.
It sounds like, I remember when I had my first Model S, 75D, and I went fully loaded at the time. I remember my lease payment was like $1,050 in 2017. So like, yep. You're talking half of that was just gas savings alone.
Exactly.
How close was it to just like buying or leasing another car once you subtracted out the gas cost?
So if you looked at our Volkswagen, it was a $350 a month payment that we were making on that car. You take the Tesla monthly for the 75 minus the lease fees that were reimbursed as an employee of the company. And it took our costs down to about $500 a month. And so you look at that difference in $500 a month versus the $350, and we were saving money.
Wow. An easy decision in the quality of life in the car you're driving.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That math just gets better and better when you start talking about the Model 3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even with the S now and the recent price reductions, like it's amazing how much you can get now for that value. But
well, and even when there aren't top line price changes that are made, the longevity of drivetrain, batteries, et cetera, that continues to still impact the sort of the back end calculus in understanding what your total cost of ownership is. Because we did a little bit of a conservative approach where we said, all right, price of gasoline, per unit mile is going to be X. Price of electricity per unit mile is going to be Y. And we applied an escalation factor, conservatively 3% per year for utilities, and a wild fluctuation of like 3 to 15% for gasoline, especially because we're living in California. But then the maintenance benefit there was a few $1,000s a year. Oil. Assume that at big increments, 50,000 miles, 70,000 miles, 100,000 miles on a internal combustion, on an ICE vehicle, you'd have fan belts, you'd have transmission, you'd have various things. So that gap keeps widening, and I periodically go back and I look at the cash flow analysis, because we actually did a net present value cash flow analysis to take into account interest rates and all kinds of stuff. Like, this is real, true cost of ownership.
You guys are data geeks to the max, huh?
Do you guys still have your spreadsheet formula you use to calculate all this?
Well, I got my first spreadsheet still in my memory bank.
You've got to send me that. That's incredible.
Yeah, we will.
No, I'm serious. Like, you factored in things that I would never have even thought to factor in.
Well, and here's what's really exciting is that the work that I'm doing now at Oracle, we're starting to think about how to develop these algorithms and models to help engage utility customers to understand what the impact would be for them to help boost, EV adoption. But we can cover that later. We'll get back to our little journey.
I definitely want to come back to that, Wes, because I totally believe that to my heart, that the major obstacle in people getting into the EV movement is lack of education about that. Because I went through that myself. I was like, what the heck does this mean? What does charging look like? What do you mean there's no gas? So you're totally, I think you're on the right path. But we'll come back to that, because I still want to get back in. So let's get back here, what Kristy was talking about. So a few months into Tesla, you guys are now you can't wait, right, for the Model 3, which there's almost 2-year wait period, I think, at this time.
Yeah, so I started at Tesla in June of 2016. So at that point, we thought it was a year plus out. We didn't really know how long, even internally, right? Like, we were working our butts off to get that car out, but there was just so many things that had never been done before that we had a lot to figure out, obviously. So by the time you fast forward a year, we had been driving our Model S. We loved it, but the Model X 90D, well, both S and X 90D battery was going to be discontinued. So there was this inventory of vehicles that were in showrooms that were no longer going to be test drive vehicles or loaners, because it wasn't a car that Tesla was going to sell anymore. So the X had always kind of been my dream car, and those stupid doors, I just am absolutely in love with them. That they're just ridiculous. And so I had a friend at the Burlingame store who he had been helping us out for years, and he found an X for us, and we were able to get into an X for even less money than our S on a monthly. And we went from an S75 to a 90D. We're able to take our S lease and transfer it, have it basically given to another person who was able to take that over and take care of our baby. And we even heard from him recently. We're still in touch. He bought it out at the end of the lease. So Bluebell is still being well taken care of, which was really kind of neat for us to like get that message 3 years later.
What was that? Swapalease.com or something?
Yeah, on Swapalease. Yeah. So then we got into the X, and literally we had the X for 2 weeks before I got the call saying, hey, guess what? Your Model 3 is ready. And we were like, oh, okay. Now what do we do? So we ran the numbers again. And guess what? It still made sense. So at that point, we decided we were ready to go all in. We only had one parking spot in our parking garage in our little South San Francisco condo with a charger, but we went through that whole hurdle. And we also have some great templates if you need to write a letter to your HOA. And it took us about 6 months, 2 board meetings, and several letters later, but we got our charging installed there. So we were able to kind of like take care of that. And we said, let's do it. We don't need a gas backup. We can just go all in.
Rip the Band-Aid off, went all electric. How many years ago was this?
So this was 2017.
So four years ago, over 4 years ago. Wow. Yep. And you guys haven't looked back, I'm assuming. Are you guys still in electric cars?
No, I look back a lot, but usually to see all the ICE cars that I just passed.
Yeah.
So we got our Model 3 and we got VIN 444, which was pretty exciting.
Wow.
It was so
crazy.
And it was rear motor, no suspension, no performance, no nothing.
Do you guys still have this car?
Nope.
No. Oh. You guys have been through quite a few Teslas.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like in the last 4 years.
It's been a journey. That car was great. We absolutely loved it. And it was fun because that was the first car that I got out on the track too. And this was, early days where there weren't any Teslas going out on the tracks because the Model S didn't have the capacity. It would go into limp mode after like 2 laps in the beginning. And so we went with, that Model 3 was amazing, but I got hooked on that performance aspect of it. I had a coworker who is a instructor for the BMW Car Club out of the Bay Area at the Golden Gate chapter. And after driving that car, I'd had a Mini Cooper before. That was the closest thing I had to like a fun like rally car. And driving the Model 3, even the rear wheel drive base Model 3 was just so much fun. And I talked to my buddy Ralph and I said, Ralph, you got to get me out there. Like, can I come play? Like, and the BMW guys were pretty open. They'll let anybody else on the track as long as you've done your car control clinics and make sure you're being safe. And getting out there was just amazing because when you have people looking at your car saying, oh, well, how often can you do that? You're going to have to charge like every lap. You're not going to be able to have any fun. And we got out there and had a blast. So when the Performance Model 3 with the track mode package was announced, it was like, we have to do this. We have to be able to compete now. So it stopped being a numbers game at that point. And then it was like the need for speed. But
that's so awesome.
All right, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I know. But it was fun because it was an upgrade, and we actually know the guy who bought my 3. He now works at Facebook with me, actually. We saw on LinkedIn the other day. He was like, hey, we're coworkers now. And so like we keep tabs on our old cars. We make sure they're being taken care of. So he's taking care of VIN 444. We upgraded. We got one of the first Performance 3s that came out, and we're maybe the first people who got out on the track with track mode. It was the week that track mode was announced. We had an internal meeting that was basically talking about all the awesome features and the hard work that the chassis team had done. And we talked about the tires. We talked about the balancing of wanting to have all components reach the point of failure at the same time. So you're not running into it with just brake fade or just batteries or just temperature, where all systems are basically getting to the max at the same point so you can get every lap out of that car. And that next weekend I was at Thunder Hill with the BMW club again. And so I was able to actually test out track mode, and Teslarati wrote up a little article on that. That was kind of fun.
So
But
I thought I heard that our buddy Ryan McCaffrey from Ride the Lightning, were you guys the first people to let him test drive a Model 3? Was that the 444 car, I'm assuming?
yeah, that was in 444. So
how did you guys hook up with that?
he had reached out on the podcast just basically saying, you know, he had been wanting this Model 3 for so long, but he knew he was going to wait. And so in his podcast, he had said, hey, if anybody gets a car and, you know, would let me come see it. He wasn't even asking for a drive, but we met up.
And we were already listening to him weekly. So
Yeah,
you know,
we felt like we
always
knew him.
on
We
it.
trusted him.
Yeah, and by that time we knew we basically figured out I knew where he worked, IGN, and which is like four blocks away from my office at the time. So I'm like, he probably lives on the peninsula, and we figured out that he lived just in terms of California, just up the street. So it was a good happenstance.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a good story.
The drive we took with him was really fun though, because we went across the Golden Gate so that we could have that experience, and went up across the bay and got a burger and came back, and yeah, that was really fun. And we've been
In-N-Out Burger, I'm assuming.
What was his initial reaction to the 3?
No.
Oh, he was just in awe. I mean, especially when we had him put on autopilot on the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was like, whoa, it really does this. Because his cousin's car, his Model X is old school. It doesn't even have autopilot. So for him to be experiencing, the latest and greatest new thing out there, I think it was a really fun difference for him to be able to compare those two cars. So that was really fun. And then it was really fun too, because we got to be a part of his delivery experience. His family was in town and they wanted to go down to pick it up in Fremont. And so because we had an X that had space for all of us, we were able to take him and his cousin and his daughter and his wife and all go down and drop him off at the Fremont delivery center so that he could actually pick up his car. And so that was a neat experience as well.
It was very meta, very meta.
That's a cool story that even I didn't know. That's amazing, you guys.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cool. And that kind of takes us to where we're at with our current vehicles. We still have the X90D and the Performance 3, but our X90D lease is up in September. So we have to give back the Falcon. And we compared the buyout cost to what it would be to get a brand new Y, and the Y is actually going to be cheaper than buying out that 90D. So it's a no-brainer, right?
So it's the planned Performance Model Y. What are you guys gonna? I can't wait to see you track the Performance Y. That's going to be a sight to be seen.
It's going to be awesome.
I saw the recent video of the Y at Tesla Corsa, and that was pretty impressive. So here's the thing, though. So you're talking about end of the year. That's going to start approaching on Plaid powertrain. Are you guys a little hesitant that you're going to get the Y and then find out that Plaid powertrain is going to come out in the S and it's going to be a supercar in the track?
I don't think the S is really my thing anymore. I mean, obviously your S is way better than the 75 that we had. I mean, you've got a beautiful Raven vehicle there, but it drives like a big, fast boat. And I like my little go-kart with my fast steering and my zero body roll. And I know the Y is going to be a little higher than that, but I don't see myself ever going for an S again. I just love the tighter handling of the 3. And from everything I've heard from the Sandy Monroe to the guys at Unplugged and everyone else, the Y is really just a teeny bit bigger 3.
Well,
all right. Sounds like it'll be more.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So, and even when it comes to ferrying other passengers around, there's more headroom in the back of the Model 3 than there is in the Model S, so it's more comfortable for other passengers. There's there's so many advantages to the 3 and the Y platform.
There's
Really.
especially more space and headroom when you go with the Y. The Y with
apparently
that roof.
I've got a buddy.
Incredible.
I've got a buddy. He used to be a former NBA player, Matt Bullard, with the Houston Rockets. He swears up and down that he took out an S. He's almost a 7-foot guy, and he loves his performance Model 3. He claims that, like, I guess the way the B pillar is, he fits in a 3 much better than an S.
That's crazy to me. But yeah, the 3 and the Y are better tall people cars than the S's, which blows my mind.
It's it's counterintuitive. Yeah.
We've had multiple other tall folks. My dad, some friends of ours, shout out to Marika and Ralph. We've had some friends of ours get in there that are big dudes, like bigger than you, Eli. And they're like, yeah, the 3 is way better.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're a little sad to say goodbye to the Falcon Wing doors, but I'm just so excited about getting that Y. And I'm also really frustrated because Tesla keeps texting me and keeps texting me and keeps texting me to tell me it's ready. And I keep saying, let me out of my lease and I will take it. But they can't figure that out. It's too complicated. And they've, I guess, had issues in the past with trying to, change things later on down the contracting road. And so
that actually doesn't surprise me. Doing a lease transfer when I did that with my original S, my new one I own outright, but I did my lease transfer. That was very difficult. I ended up having to make it, it took so long. I had to make an entirely another payment from when I started the process to end it. It took them over 30 days to get it figured out. So no, I know that was a long process. So I know you're.
Well, it's probably. It's probably a revenue recognition problem. They probably don't have the right software systems integrated. This one is the lease, this one is the buy, all that kind of stuff. And I just love the ultimate irony that they can make a car that drives itself, but they can't figure out how to transfer your lease.
Yeah, they're different departments.
Yeah, they probably fired all those people.
They probably did.
Ooh,
so Kristy, I know you're big into racing, and I know you've been trained. People are starting to see a big rise of racing, and people are going to find out through you and others doing it that the Model Y is a car you can race. For somebody who wants to get into racing, has no idea what they're doing, they're afraid of crashing their car, what path did you take? What would your recommendation be to a racer out there who wants to follow in the trail you're blazing?
So first thing to do is to figure out what kind of your local track is, because convenience and getting to the track is a significant factor. So having a track nearby, like for us, Laguna Seca was the closest in the Bay Area. But Buttonwillow was a decent drive. Thunder Hill was a decent drive. So those are the 3 tracks that I had gotten experience on in California.
I got to tell a story real quick about Laguna Seca, because that's the first time I really got to really just hang out with you guys outside of a My Tesla Adventure event. So
that's true.
You had your rear wheel drive, I believe, Model 3, 444 VIN, right? Yep. I had my 75D, and on the first lap that we're actually able to race, I just gunned it. And I remember, because you were one of the handful of people I passed on that first lap. Well, the Model S 75D, and even still today with the Raven, it's better than it was, but definitely not the 75D, is not a track car. Because by the second lap, you were passing me, and by my third lap, you were lapping me. Because my car got into limp mode, and I got limited to 500 watts or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, so I did 120 miles an hour up the hill the first time, but I could only do it once. So the rest of the race, I'm puttering around 70 miles an hour, and you passed me at least once. It may have even been twice.
Yeah, that was a fun event. I hope Refuel comes back after the COVID craziness, because
I want to get back on that corkscrew. What is it like? Yeah. Is it a 3 or a 4-story drop? It's just and stock, a non-performance stock rear-wheel drive Model 3, it was tight. It was so impressive.
Yeah. So, an event like Refuel is awesome for other EV drivers because they are catering to the EV community, right? So, they have power out there for everybody in the paddocks. They've got, the right type of different groups, beginner groups and intermediate groups and all that in place. So an event like Refuel is fun, but it's not going to teach you how to really drive. You're not getting the same level of instruction there. So depending on where your local track is, look at what events have high performance driving schools, or sometimes they're called HPDEs, high performance driving events. And when you look for an event like that, a lot of times they'll have instruction. And I would say it is absolutely the best thing you can do to have somebody in the car next to you. And like I said, we did it with the BMW CCA, and they've got a great program. You know, they've been doing this for decades. And you've got an instructor next to you. You're both wearing helmets. You're mic'd up so that you can communicate. Granted, the microphones aren't really necessary in an EV. They're really meant for those cars with that loud noise in the background. But you're mic'd up. You've got your instructor there. And not only are they giving you the pointers, but they're giving you the confidence. Because a lot of times, like, I mean, especially in a Tesla, your car can do some amazing things, but you may not have the confidence as a driver. So you get that instructor next to you, and they're able to sit there and say, all right, go, 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 go. Okay, on the brakes. Okay, on the gas, on the gas. And we got over the point. We allowed them to just call it gas because it was way too many syllables to say accelerator every time. So they're sitting there and they're going gas, brake, and they're coaching you, and they're telling you where you are, eyes up, look ahead, look ahead, look ahead. You should be at the next turn. And all of that coaching in car is what makes such a difference. You can look at a track, you can look at the lines that you should be driving, but when you've got someone there in the car with you who's actually driven those lines and who knows exactly when you need to be decelerating, it makes such a difference. And you can just start to see your lap times get faster and faster and faster. And as you work your way up, they'll have, you know, programs where you're with an instructor full time for, you know, until you are very, very comfortable. And then you basically have to pass a kind of, you know, unofficial test where they say, yeah, you're good to go on your own. And then as you get into the higher and higher groups, they start to allow things like when I'm doing the driving, we're doing point by passing only. You can only pass on the straights, and you can only pass when someone gives you that signal, because it's a safety thing, right? Like, we're all in our daily drivers, we're in expensive cars. We don't want to end up, you know, bumping bumpers with anybody at actual, yeah, or ending up in a wall. But as you get better and better, you can get into the groups where they're not having to do point bys, and they're getting a little more actual wheel to wheel racing. And that's a little bit more risky. I mean, so Leilani Munter, who's like an idol of mine, she's come to Tesla and done a bunch of speaker events and stuff. And I talked to her once and told her that I was like getting my Model 3 out there, and I was so excited. And she looked at me and she's like, you drive your own car on the track? That's scary. And like, she's a professional race car driver. And so it is a little scary to be out there, but these organizations run things pretty smooth. And I'm looking forward to here in Austin, now that we're out here. CODA is absolutely on my like soon bucket list. And Edge Addicts, I guess, is a group that does events there. So I'm going to try to see if we can get something organized and maybe get some of the Austin and San Antonio club folks interested. And
talk to him. I bet you there's a pretty good experience at CODA that could probably happen.
Well, I love CODA. I've been trying to talk to the ownership there to install superchargers on location.
Oh, that would be
we're
clutch.
We're getting close. We got like Elon involved in it. Like, hopefully it'll happen. That would be epic. CODA, Circuit of Americas. It's in Austin, Texas, in our backyard. It's the only F1 track in the United States, basically. So I think that would be epic. Eli, we should have, speaking of Leilani, dude, she's like my older sister. I totally forgot. We should have her on the podcast. Like, she's amazing. The stories that, like, yeah, she's pretty cool. Like, she's an idol of mine too. But like the nicest person you'll ever meet in your life. But we'll definitely, sorry, I've been at CODA. I went, Porsche invited me out to a 911, the new 911 that came out, the 992. Nice. My buddy Paul, they owned Porsche and a few other dealerships here in Austin. So I got to be one of the first people to test drive the new 911. I took it like 160 miles, 170 at Circuit of Americas. Yeah, that's the crazy experience. Kristy, do you remember what's the top speed that you remember taking your Tesla on any one of these racetracks?
Here's the crazy thing. Like, actually looking at your display to see the speed you're going is the last thing that crosses your mind. You are so focused on driving that you are never looking down. So until I put like a GoPro connected to the glass roof, actually looking at it, I didn't even see it. But I hit about 135 is the top. And I think, what is the Performance 3? Capped at 167 or something weird like that. But it was 163. Okay. Well, it was in the 130s that I got to. And it's funny though, because that top end speed, that's where the 3 can't compete with, some of the other cars out there, but it's the cornering and all those other areas where you can really catch up. And so I think that the latest version of track mode that was released actually added in some additional like storage of information. Before, track mode was just helping you turn off all the nannies so that you can actually have fun and drive the car while it's also keeping you safe. But now it's actually, I think, collecting some of that data so that you could hopefully, ultimately it would be great if the dash cams were recording those sessions as well, so that you don't need to pay for Perry's lap timer and have all these other little devices dangling all over and getting in the way of your vision. But I think
sounds like that's the next request on Twitter of Elon, to add a track lap time tracker, so you can actually see your video with that overlay, right? Because that's what you're talking about.
I want all of that. I want the video. I want the speed. I want the output. I want to know exactly when I'm going to be thermally limited. I want to know all that data.
And with the recent software update that's now just rolling out wide, they just added the side cameras. So you throw the software on top of that and you can see everything that's happened. That would be crazy.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. But I also want the recording of me inside the car, because it's really funny to hear the things you say when you're driving.
Oh God, oh fuck.
Yeah, like my first spin out when I was at Buttonwillow, that was fun. Yeah.
So you guys get into this.
I've also heard, "Oh, not today, you don't." I've heard that everyone. Like,
that's hilarious. Good. So you guys
understand
full on.
Kristy is a champion downhill skier from when she was a tiny kid. So just take crazy adrenaline junkie Lake Tahoe. Shout out Lake Tahoe, Nevada.
Competitive person. Yeah.
Put her in a high performance electric vehicle and she's
move out of the way.
Absolutely.
So clearly you guys are just like full on, at least on the automotive side, full on Tesla. You guys are drinking the Kool-Aid, 11 out of 10s. You guys were telling me when we met that you guys went fully solar Powerwall. Tell us when that started. Like just what I guess you guys are just kept getting deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole or whatever, the sustainability EV movement. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. So it was actually round 2 of layoffs at Tesla that freed me from the slavedom of the Bay Area. And we basically said, all right, we are going to go somewhere that we can buy a house and put solar panels on it and like actually start to do the things that we wanted to do, to feel like we weren't just, not buying gas, but we were actually making our own electrons. And so we knew we'd been in the Bay Area. I had been there most of my life, and you just can't get the space. And the condo that we had, we didn't even own our own roof, and it was just a whole hodgepodge of things. And so when we were looking for new opportunities, we were looking outside of the Bay, outside of California. And Austin is obviously an amazing place. You just ended up here. It's got the tech world. It's got people who care about the environment. It's got beautiful things to do outdoors and all of that. So we were fortunate to find a company that would move me out here and give me the opportunity to work predominantly remote. So I've been doing this work from home thing for a while, traveling also, but it's been really great because we've been able to actually afford a house first thing we did was put solar panels on it, 2 power walls, and install our charging. So we've got HPWC from the referral program that had basically just been like sitting in boxes for a long time. And we got those both installed so that we've got our both cars charging. Right now it's a little cloudy, but the sun's come out. If I looked at the app right now to check on things, we're able to control all of it so that we have backup when there's a storm. We are producing, we only made our system 80% the capacity for the summer usage, because fortunately / unfortunately, electricity here in Texas is pretty cheap. So it doesn't actually make sense to overproduce at any point in the year, because you're not getting paid back from the utility at a rate that makes it, a cost-effective program when you think about the cost of what it is to install the panels. So we sized our system at 80%. So basically in the summer, we do still have an electricity bill, but it's so much less than it was when we moved in last summer. And in the winter, we're really just paying for the interconnect fees for us to be able to, use those wires and have them able to meter our usage. But we probably should have gone with like 4 power walls, but at the time the numbers didn't quite make sense. But the great thing is we can always add those later. You can just keep stacking them on and add them to your system. So ultimately we'll probably need more power walls, and we'll probably need to install a 3rd HPWC for the Cybertruck, because we're in Texas now, so we have to get one of those.
Duh.
But yeah. That's
awesome. I've seen Powerwalls stacked up too. I've got a friend about 45 minutes away from me. He did 90 kilowatts of storage on Tesla Powerwalls, and he was able to go for almost an entire year without even taking any power from the grid. In fact, he flipped off the connection to the grid, and that included charging his Tesla. I think there was like a couple month period that he did have to exchange in winter. But yeah, he did it. Like the net of the year was an entire year off sunlight.
That's crazy.
That's
I'm really excited.
Depending on the utility, the interconnection agreement may actually prevent him from doing that. So he might not want to spread that around.
He had to still pay the connection fee, but they can't force him from keeping that lever pulled up or down. Yeah, no, he still had to pay. He still had to pay the interconnectivity fee. Don't get me wrong. They got their money. And the connection had to be there. He just turned it off and didn't use it.
Let's bring, speaking of like, we're talking about the grid and all this, I want to bring Wes into the conversation here to give us a little bit of a background, because now you're working with Oracle, but I feel like you spent a lot of your career in the space, utilities, with the power grid. Give maybe our listeners just a little bit of a background of where you're coming from. And a question that I have for you, once you do a little bit on your background, is what are you working on today? What do you see as like the big, if all of a sudden, if I could snap my fingers and every person in Austin, Texas, in our home city is driving an EV, can the grid in Austin handle it? Like, what do you think about all this stuff? Can you start off with a little bit of background? I know you've got a lot of expertise in this space, and then talk to me about, like, even if we could snap our fingers and replace every gasoline car with a electric vehicle in Austin, is that feasible with the grid system that we have today?
Well, it's definitely a good aspirational goal to have, but the practicality is there's a lot of limitations there. To answer your first question, so part of why Kristy and I have been happily together for the better part of a decade now is because when we first met and started to date and everything else, we basically, the first thing we started talking about was utility project management, rate design and spreadsheets and utility project management and all kinds of craziness, because she was working for a consulting firm that does a ton of work in the utility space. And by that time, I had already had about a decade in various aspects of the power and utilities and energy efficiency, demand side management industry. And at the time, I was very fortunate to be the statewide energy manager for the California State University system. The HQ for the Cal State CSU is first of all, they're a fantastic organization. They're very student focused, very diversity focused, very, very, very intent on providing really good, solid, wide ranging access to higher education. The Cal State system, a lot of people, you think about California universities, you think UCLA, you think USC, you think Berkeley, stuff like that. USC is one university. They're great, but it's one university. UCLA, Cal Berkeley, they're part of the University of California system, which is great. There are 10 campuses and a bunch of medical centers. The Cal State University system is 23 campuses, 500,000 students, and
Wow.
50,000 staff. And along with the University of California and a variety of other state agencies, they have been among the leaders in aggressive demand-side management policy and practice. And I was very fortunate to work with a lot of those folks, working with all the different campus energy managers. Every campus has an energy manager, and what we were doing was we were investing millions of dollars in lighting retrofits, HVAC retrofits, central plant, chillers, boilers, et cetera, for district heating and cooling systems around these college campuses, and driving our energy use intensity, EUI, that's a common energy index, energy use per square foot, basically down. Largely to be good stewards of the environment, but also good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and provide an affordable, sustainable education for folks around the world. But I was working at Cal State at the time and having tons of fun doing energy projects, mostly demand side management, but we did a lot of solar at Cal State, some fuel cell demonstration projects, some really interesting, exciting stuff. And so I had been doing a lot of large commercial and institutional projects and things at the time, but I was living in Long Beach and I really wanted to get back to NorCal. And so Kristy and I had gotten together, and I found a consulting group up in Northern California that would help me relocate. So that was great. And then I went to work for a company of whom I was a longtime customer. The company is called Enernoc, and they've now been restructured under an Italian conglomerate called Enel, and that group is called Enel X. Some of your listeners may know Enernoc if they ever followed the demand side management and the demand response markets across the United States. Basically, it's the virtual power plant. Utilities incentivize residents or commercial and industrial customers to briefly curtail their load during ultra peak high use, high heat, high congestion periods in the summertime or during emergencies to reduce congestion on the grid. Because it's a heck of a lot cheaper to purchase people shutting stuff off than it is to turn on a peaker plant, especially when you consider that most peaker plants are among the oldest, dirtiest in the fleet. And you can even ignore the whole climate change aspect of the debate and focus just on air quality and cost effectiveness and maintenance costs, and you got your answer right there. So that starts to speak to my interest in more diverse demand side management and curtailment activities in behavioral energy efficiency, and that's part of what led me to where I am right now, which is at Oracle, specifically the utilities division, Oracle Utilities O-Power. O-Power was an acquisition like 3 or 4 years ago that Oracle made. O-Power is basically like the residential cousin of Enernoc. Enernoc was mostly commercial and industrial demand side management software and consulting. O-Power is residential energy efficiency and demand management based. But we're doing a lot of exciting things now with distributed energy resources, DER, and providing customer engagement software through our utility clients, some of the biggest in the country, to basically reach out via email, web, SMS, text, whatever, to help educate and engage residential end users about their energy consumption patterns.
Yeah, explain to
Yeah.
me. I didn't know this until I met you recently, that Oracle was in the utility business. Like, what is from an outside perspective, like, why a company like Oracle, or why are they bothering in this space?
Yep, good question. And I should also note that these opinions my own. They are not that of Oracle. To briefly answer your question, actually, Oracle's been in the utility space for decades, along with Microsoft and a very small handful of other software companies. Oracle is one of the largest producers of software of any kind anywhere on the planet, bar none, and that includes utility software. Roughly speaking, half of the utilities in North America, half of the utility bills, electricity, trash, natural gas, whatever, half of the utility bills in North America are generated by Oracle backend software.
Oh, wow.
The others are SAP or a smattering of other vendors. But there's a lot of Oracle software behind the scenes, and the same with hospitality, construction management. There's a lot of Oracle software behind the scenes in lots of industries all over the place that just isn't quite as visible as some of the sexier stuff. But Oracle Utilities does back-end database and analytics software for most of the major utility companies in North America and many across the world as well. And our subgroup of the utilities in O-Power does customer engagement, behavioral energy efficiency, and demand management. That's very customer facing. So when you log into Pacific Gas and Electric, or there's a variety of utilities on the Eastern Seaboard, a lot across the Midwest, where when you log in and you go to look at your, how did I perform last week, and how is this month's bill compared to last month's bill, and what are some tips I can use to reduce energy consumption? That's all powered by Oracle Utilities O-Power. And it's my group is just a small group of many. There's a fantastic R&D group that's continually pushing the envelope and developing new ways to engage customers directly via channel partners, et cetera, including EV adoption and EV education. EVs are the last big top line revenue opportunity for most, for utilities, generally speaking. So they have a real vested interest in, as you were saying earlier, breaking down those barriers to adoption, one of which is radically, or simply education. And in being able to radically simplify and access or provide potential customers access to such information, as well as create a useful, interesting, engaging, long-term experience for an EV adopter about how to optimize their charging and optimize their costs. It's not just about getting customers into an EV. It's about sustaining that long-term experience of being an EV owner. That's also critically important. So that's kind of how we got from A to B, starting on the large commercial institutional energy efficiency, widgets and gizmos side to, a very software centric side.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, dude. That's incredible.
And the other question, I'm sorry, I didn't answer your second question. I just realized the second question is, my domain is demand side management and energy efficiency and demand reduction and demand response, behavioral energy efficiency, and I'm very fortunate to oversee a very talented group of custom services development engineers and project managers that are partnering closely with R&D at O-Power to develop new web and outbound experiences for potential and current EV owners. But a large part of Oracle Utilities is also the back-end software for grid management. So there's a whole transmission distribution aspect that a lot of normal, average folks don't really understand or see, because they see poles and wires and maybe the occasional substation, but it's not doing anything, right? You don't see a dam opening up, or you don't see a windmill turning, right? You see static poles and wires sitting there. But the size of the machine, the complexity of the interactions, basically it's the most complex, biggest, but at the same time, in many ways, fragile machine that mankind has ever built. And so if you all of a sudden had 500,000 EV owners just plug in their EVs all at once here in the city of Austin, you'd probably have widespread blackout. The grid just can't take it. And there are some predictions about, we can totally get to 100% renewable grid. I'm skeptical of that. I don't think the data or the studies really fully bear that out yet. We've seen in a variety of ways. For example, was it I think it was 03, the big blackout in First Energy territory. That basically was one down power line, set off a cascade of events that wiped out millions of Americans for days without power, and in many cases, which can be life-threatening. That was just a sagging power line, right? That shorted out and caused a cascade of issues. If all of a sudden we start increasing the pull on the grid, especially when you consider that renewables has basically met coal in the middle as far as a power source in the fuel mix, nationwide. Utility renewables continues to increase. Coal as a fraction of fuel mix continues to decrease. With intermittent sources, wind, solar, small hydro, things like that, the grid stability continues to be in greater question. And unless we have really widespread, massive grid level battery storage or just energy storage, whether it's pumped hydro, gravity, or battery, unless we have that and or some other base load like small next generation nuclear, I don't think we're going to get to the EV future that we really want.
Yep. Dude, and then just to wrap up, I read this book a while ago, but I'll go ahead and mention it to our listeners. If you guys are interested in kind of digging deeper into the grid system, there's a book called The Grid by Gretchen Baki. It's that really like mind blowing for me to figure out, like, number one, there's like 3 main grid systems. There's like West and East in the United States, and then Texas has its own. But just the sheer how fragile it is, so yeah. Eli, you want to jump in here? I think we're probably coming on an hour. We've had a lot of fun. We could probably talk for a few more hours, but maybe we'll start to wrap up a little bit.
Yeah, Kristy and Wes, I want to thank you guys for coming on to share, Kristy, your experience with the car and working for Tesla. Wes, you listening to Kristy share her experience with the car and working for Tesla. No, I'm kidding. And your experience.
I never get tired of it.
And your
I'm happy
experience with
to
energy.
support.
In fact, I'd love to bring you on at some point so we can talk more about the energy side of things, the grid side of things, and a hot topic that's coming up that's going to be vehicle to grid, because we know that's something that's coming and is expected to be a key component to it, or not. And maybe that's something you could shed some light on. But you guys have any last words here for the Tesla Geeks community?
Yeah, so I'm hoping, Eli, that we can get back out to California for July 25th is the next Tesla Corsa event. So as we were talking about all these track events, like I didn't even call it out, the Tesla Corsa specifically is a group that has been put together by the Unplugged Performance guys to actually have just Teslas on the track, which is really cool because, they're beautiful cars and we all technically have the same hardware when you're talking about some of these cars, but definitely brings out a little bit more fun with the driver experience. So we're thinking about making a trip out to California, come see some of our Tesla Corsa friends at the end of July, if we can make that happen. And Rebecca, if you can help us get CODA going, that's one thing, but hey, we'll drive back to California if we need to for these events.
Awesome.
So,
all right, if you guys do, let me know. Keep me updated. If you guys do,
yeah.
I'll try and come out. Maybe I'll just car camp in my Starship out at the track.
That'd be fun.
You'll be the first to know.
If the Teslas are rocking, don't come and knock,
You got your dream case.
Yeah. I'll be alone, so you don't want to interrupt that. Anyway, I just want to say, guys, thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Tesla Geeks Show. We can't wait to bring you more next week.